So after the elation of Monday night with a 2-0 win away to Newcastle, we're brought crashing down to earth. London derby, under the lights, London Stadium. Confidence is high. We face an Arsenal team whose form has been a little bit patchy of late, and we start to believe that there might be a little bit of a turnaround. But then we go fast forward 90 minutes from the referee's whistle to start the game, and we're looking at a 5-2 reverse. Now, if you haven't seen the game, you'd probably look and see that it was actually 5-2 at half-time, and you might be forgiven for thinking that there was something of a recovery in the second half, but we'll talk about that, and maybe we'll get a little bit more context as to what actually happened in the match. But if you're wondering who I am, my name's Gatesy. I inhabit another West Ham fan YouTube channel called the West Ham Massive. I'm sure the boys, if they're kind enough, will put a link to the channel below. Please don't forget to drop a like on this stream, and then if you're interested in hearing a little bit more of what I've got to say, please feel free to pop over to the West Ham Massive and give us a subscribe as well. Thanks very much. So, look, the game started 10 minutes in. We'd sort of like managed to keep them at arm's length, but I was watching the first 10 minutes and thinking that Martin Odegaard was pulling the strings. You know, it's typical, isn't it? Their bad run of form comparative to them has come about when he's been injured. He's been off the scene. Declan Rice was off for a little spell as well, as in that sort of run of form. They both come back for the game yesterday, wouldn't you know it? 10 minutes in, there's a corner. I think it was conceded quite unnecessarily, but still, defensively, you need to do your job. You need to be organised. And that corner comes in, whipped in from Saka. Great corner. I've got to give it. The delivery was superb. And the movement from Gabriel gets his head to this sort of like this curving corner. Perfectly powerful header. There was nothing that Wan-Bissaka could do about it, but I do sort of have to question, well, who was supposed to be picking Gabriel up? And there was no one anywhere near him, quite honestly. It was quite poor defending, and that just rocked us back on our heels. Like I say, 10 minutes in, you're just getting settled, and bang, you're 1-0 down. London rivals. We've still got the scar of the match last season, 6-0 reverse, 4-0 at half time. The stadium was half empty in the second half when the game kicked off at 46 minutes and beyond. I stayed for the 90 minutes in that one, but it was a pretty hard watch. And 10 minutes into this one, you are sort of sitting there and thinking, uh-oh, how's this going to sort of pan out? Are we going to dig in? Are we going to recover? How's this going to pan out? Well, yeah, it went from there. It went from bad to worse, quite honestly, because then there was a second goal. I mean, look, go and look at the second goal if you haven't seen it. Lovely passing move. I've got to give him due credit. It was Saka playing a nice little 1-2 with, I think it was Odegaard, if I remember correctly. Nice little 1-2. He bursts into the box. He plays a delightful little cross ball across the penalty box, bisects the sort of the defensive, between the defensive line and the goalkeeper. Trossard sort of like steaming in on the back stick. He couldn't miss. He had to bury it. 2-0. And you're sitting there going, oh, yeah, this is possibly another 6-0 that we're looking at here. Arsenal are looking good. We're all over the place. We're looking again like 11 strangers that have just sort of been picked out at random by Julen Lopetegui, who was obviously on a touchline ban. He wasn't on the touchline, but I don't think that's really any sort of mitigation for what happened yesterday. I really don't. I'm pretty convinced that he would have had conversations with his coaches, the players beforehand, because he knew he was not going to be on the touchline, so he would have done his preparation long since. And there's probably ways they'd have been communicating. He'd have probably been up in the stands or wherever he was. I don't think it was a stadium ban. It was a touchline ban. I could be wrong in that. But there would have been messages going back and forward. So the fact that Lopetegui wasn't on the touchline is, for me, it's just not any sort of mitigation. So if he's going to come out with that, that's a load of bollocks for me. So, but anyway, so we're 2-0 down. And you're going, oh, this is really bad. This is really, really bad. And just as you're sort of gathering your thoughts, we can see the penalty. I mean, what was Paqueta doing? He dangles his leg out. And that's the way the modern game is, you know. I mean, in the old days, back in the day, during the war, that you'd have sort of looked at and gone, never a penalty in a million years, just get up. What are you diving for? But these days, it's sort of like any sort of contact, the forward will exaggerate the contact. I'm not saying there wasn't contact, but it was. He sort of like, he got the trunks on, didn't he? He sort of like, he threw himself to the ground. In modern currency, is it a penalty? Yes. I still look at it and just go, really? Come on. But it's a penalty in the sort of like the laws as they are nowadays, the interpretations. Anthony Taylor blows his whistle, points to the spot, and you're like, oh my God, really? So Odegaard steps up. As I say, he's already played a huge part in Arsenal. Like I say, he was involved in the second goal, and he was pulling the strings up to that point anyway, quite honestly. He steps up, takes the spot kick. I mean, Fabianski, to be fair to him, he's got a pretty good record from penalties, and he went the right way, and if he'd have just gone a split second earlier, maybe he'd have got it. But you know what, ifs and ands, you know. Yeah, he puts it past Fabianski. We're 3-0 down. Oh my word. Yeah, this is really, really bad. And then the fourth goal, what a calamity. What a calamity. It's a ball that sort of like is chipped up. It's sort of like on the back line. Max Kilman's running towards his own goal. And as the ball's dropping, he stretches a leg. He tries to sort of make a clearance. Completely misses. Collapses to the floor. In whips Kai Havertz to latch onto the resultant ball. He's on a one-on-one with Fabianski. Fabianski gets beat 4-0. And you're like, my goodness, this is going to be 6-0 again. Because, again, we was 4-0 down in that game at half-time. And it's, 35, 36 minutes, we're 4-0 down again. And it is, you're looking at it and going, this is a bit of history repeating itself here. We are going to be absolutely mauled. Now, just around the time that Aaron Wan-Bissaka, and I've been complaining about this for a little while, one of the byproducts of going to the London Stadium has been on many, many occasions and I know people that I know have personally witnessed this, people who are blatantly not West Ham fans. Now that in and of itself, I don't have a problem. If they're not going in colours, and if it's fairly obvious that they're opposite fans, but they're not taking the piss, you know, when their team's scoring, they're not sort of jumping at them down and all that sort of bollocks, then fine, I sort of take that on the chin, and it is what it is, you know. But when they're actually wearing their fucking colours in the home end, I mean, seriously, that's just taking it too far. I've actually had Arsenal fans, I've had Man United fans. I remember the game against FCSB. I had Romanians in front of me who were clearly supporting the opposition. And I go to the stewards, and it's incredible. It really is that I'm having a conversation with a steward to say, you've got supporters of the opposition in the home end, in colours, it's fairly obvious. And their reaction is that, oh, well, if they're not causing any problems, we're not bothered. Well, all it's going to take, they might not be causing the problem, but all it's going to take is someone that's sitting in close proximity to them. So let's take the game yesterday. All it takes is an Arsenal fan in the West Ham end, in Arsenal colours, celebrating a goal, or not, as the case may be, but the fact they're wearing colours is a bit of a beacon to say, this is an Arsenal fan. And all it needs is a West Ham fan who have had maybe a couple of sherbets and is a bit pissed off with the fact that we're 4-0 down, to maybe take a little bit of a pop or say something or this, that and the other, and then it sparks, then it ignites. He shouldn't fucking be there. Why are we letting away fans, blatantly obvious away fans, into the home end in a London derby? In any game, but in a London derby, I mean, my God, it's ridiculous. All this bullshit about, oh, customers, they're customers. No, there's an away end for a reason. He's wearing an Arsenal shirt. Get him in the fucking away end or get him out of the stadium. So it all kicked off. About 4-0 down, over in the corner opposite to where I sit, up in the gods. I can see it's all kicking off. And as I'm watching it all going off, there was a through ball played by Carlos Soler, which Aaron Wan-Bissaka latches onto and puts the ball away. I mean, he's in a great run of form. I mean, not just in terms of goal scoring, which, you know, he's got 2 in 2 games. I mean, before today, I'm fairly sure I'm right in saying he'd had 2 goals in his entire career, and now he's got 2 in 2. He's like, wow, he's turned into Cafu all of a sudden. What's going on? But yeah, I mean, the ball was played through by Soler. I mean, up to this point, to be honest, Soler had been so-so, not really too much to speak of. But he obviously come up trumps there, played a through ball. But you are sitting there thinking that, okay, it's 4-1. It's probably not going to be that much to speak of. It's probably a little bit of pride that's been restored, a little bit of self-respect that's been earned. We're not sort of like going to give them a clean sheet at the very least. But yeah, 4-1 down, you're not really thinking too much. But then 2 minutes later, wow. I mean, there's a free kick given on the edge of the box. Emerson shaping to take it, and he bends it into the top corner past David Raya. 4-2, and now you're thinking, ooh, hang on a minute. Hang on just a second. Put the champagne away, Mikel Arteta. Ooh, just put that champagne on ice. And you're thinking, right, okay, now, we're 2 goals down, but we are on a bit of a comeback here. Now, let's see. We need to be the ones to get the next goal. We need to be the ones to get the next goal at this point. If we can get a goal this side of the half, or maybe sort of early into the second half, make it 4-3. Ooh, their arseholes are going to be going a little bit. Do you know what I mean? A little bit like that. They're not going to be too happy. And then the game was killed. The game was effectively killed. Another corner. They murdered us from corners yesterday. They absolutely murdered us from corners. I don't know if you've clocked it, but they had this little thing, and I was watching it, and I've never really noticed it before. But they've got this little thing that they take a clutch of players to the side of the goal that's opposite from where the corner's being taken. So if the corner's being taken on the right hand stick, then they'll all sort of like wander off and be sort of like over towards the left-hand stick. There's this clutch of Arsenal players. And then as the corner taker's shaping to sort of take it, they all sort of charge in to sort of like a more central position. And I've never seen that before. Interesting. And it caused chaos. We just had no clue what to do. And the corner's played in. Fabianski comes flying out. Now, one of the things I'm sounding like an old fart here, but one of the things I'm never too sort of like happy about is goalkeepers coming flying out and punching the ball, especially when there's time and space to just catch the fucking thing. You know, take the pressure off of your back line, catch the ball and reevaluate your options. You're punching it out and it's like you don't know where it's going. It's probably going to an opposition player half the time. He comes flying out. He's doing an impression of fucking Superman. He sort of like comes out. He's got his fist sort of like right in line with Gabriel's mush. Now, ordinarily, I'd be like, yeah, whatever, you know, give him a right hand, a Fabs, whatever. But he concedes a fucking penalty. Gets a yellow card into the bargain. Concedes the penalty. 5-2. Saka steps up, takes it. Again, Fabianski, to be fair to him, went the right way, got a touch on the ball, couldn't get enough on it to keep it out of the back of the net, and then it's 5-2. And if you can go and look at the stats and make a comparison first half to second half, and obviously you look and you see 5-2 at half time, final score 5-2, you would be forgiven for thinking that we made something of a comeback in the second half. We didn't. Don't be fooled into thinking that we made any sort of comeback in the second half. We didn't. Arsenal, very simply, managed the game. They knew that they had 3 points in the bag. All they needed to do was just keep the ball, manage the game intelligently, sensibly. It was the equivalent of a boxer, right? Who's 9 rounds or so into a contest, and the corner's telling them, you have won every round up to this point. You do not need to take any silly risks to try and knock this guy out and maybe leave yourself open and put yourself down for a 10 count. So just manage this from here on in and just get to the end of the 12th round. You've got this in the bag. And that was basically Arsenal. They just kept us at arm's length. They just sort of, you know, did what they needed to do. We did have a couple of chances, but I think we did that because they'd kind of backed off a little bit and they'd made a few substitutions, and at 5-2 up, like I say, you know that the game is won. We had one from Antonio where he turns, he gets a shot away which goes past the post, and then there was another one. I think Danny Ings should have done better, and I know some people will turn around when they see the chance and say, well, the angle was against him, he was off balance, this, that and the other. Look, he's a Premier League striker, he's an England international back in the day. He should be getting that on target. I'm sorry, but you know, it wouldn't have made any real fundamental difference. It would have just made a little bit more sort of like pleasing on the score sheet. But make no mistake, we got humbled. We got really humbled. Now, what does this mean for the future of Julen Lopetegui? I mean, I think now it does hinge on the next two games. We're back to that again, aren't we? We went to obviously the Everton game, we had the international break, and it was the next two games, which was obviously Newcastle and Arsenal. And everybody thought we was going to lose them both, myself included. Hey presto, the curveball was thrown. We go to Newcastle and we win. And we probably get the result today that everybody expected. Maybe not the scoreline that we hoped for, but the result was what it was. So, again, it's been changed. It's back to the next two games, which obviously Tuesday night we take on Leicester City away from home. They've got Ruud van Nistelrooy back in the door. The old new manager bounce with playing them at ultimately the wrong time for me, I think. And then we go the game a week tomorrow as I record this. I'm recording this on Sunday morning. On Monday week we will play Wolverhampton Wanderers. Now, again, a few weeks ago, their form was absolutely awful. Gary O'Neill was looking like he was in all sorts of trouble. And I know that obviously they got beat by Bournemouth the other day. But other than that, I think they've been in pretty decent form. And we're coming against them again probably at a time that for us is not the best. But look, at the end of the day, you've got to play everybody twice, home and away. You play 38 games, you finish where you finish, and it is what it is. But I'm hoping that Julen Lopetegui can, you know, come back. I mean, Kudus is going to be available for the Leicester game, so that's a bonus. I'd actually like to see Kudus play up top. I'd like to see him replace Antonio. I don't want to see him on the left. I don't want to see him on the right. I want to see him central. I want to give him the brief to roam, get him behind the back line, cause chaos, try not to get yourself sent off. That would be great. But I think for me, Kudus has to come in some way, somehow. And for me, I think it's Antonio that needs to drop out. Some people might say that's a little bit harsh. But the thing for me was yesterday, and again, I said this when I did the fan cam for the Newcastle game, about the thing that frustrated me about Antonio is he's too deep half the time, and it was the same yesterday. He was dropping so deep, and it's like, we've got no out ball, so we're playing the ball up top. We've got no one to play it to because you're in midfield, mate. You need to get up top, and maybe Kudus will be the guy that will be able to sort of provide that outlet up top and a little bit more pace than Antonio has been offering of late. I think he's not quite looked on it. But anyway, that's just my thoughts. Anyway, if this has been mildly entertaining or amusing to you, then please feel free to drop a like on this stream. Don't forget, if you can, pop across to the West Ham Massive, drop a subscribe on there, and I'll catch you there as well. And I'd also like to say thanks to both Gio and Gonzo for allowing me this as a platform to have a little bit of a ramble and get it off me chest. But anyway, look forward to seeing you next time, guys. Stay safe. Come on, you Irons.